My name is Jenra Lawal. Welcome to Tech Roundup, your weekly opinion views and analysis of the top tech events happening around the world with a focus on Nigeria. Wale isn't here today, but he'll be back next week, as always. On today's show, our anchor story for today is on El Salvador's approval of Bitcoin as a legal tender. And finally, our guest this week is Ekundayo Ayeni, the Vice President, Career Marketing with Career Express. Is that correct?
Yeah, Career Express.
Thank you.
Sales kind of thing.
Thank you for being here. So you should stay tuned for Tech Roundup Weekly, which is right after the first story. And as always, don't forget the number of the week is at the end of the show. We have a packed show for you today, so let's get started. So our first story, like I mentioned earlier, is El Salvador's approval of Bitcoin as a legal tender. So El Salvador has recently announced that they supported a proposition from President Nayib Bukele for a law to use Bitcoin as a legal tender, making the country the first in the world to do this. I think it's a breakthrough for the country. It's a breakthrough for Bitcoin as a whole and cryptocurrency as a whole. According to news stories, we heard that majority of lawmakers were in support of the proposal. Yeah. To be precise, about 62 of the 84 lawmakers supported this motion. So I don't know. The only thing I feel like is that a lot of these news stories were of the opinion that this might affect El Salvador's standing with the IMF. For those who don't know, the IMF, they were in talks with the IMF to help them, support them with about $1.3 billion to revitalize their economy. But people are saying that if they've decided to go with Bitcoin as a legal tender, that might affect how that pans out in the future. I don't know. I mean, how do you think that this impacts the El Salvador's economic development as a whole?
So we're seeing a similar story as what happened in Europe a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So in Europe, there was a time when the Facebook, the Google, and all of them were coming into Europe.
Yeah.
And many countries were putting out all kind of baits and all kind of tax waiting for them. If you come to my country, they have some sort of hard conditions. Mm-hmm. And then a country took them on the island. And then you find that Google, Facebook, all of them went that way, and the economy grew stronger, and a couple of things happened. So this would make El Salvador a point or a place of interest for certain kind of people now.
Yeah.
Because some people want to cash out, they need to move the money into that country, mm-hmm. bringing in some sort of investment.
Absolutely.
In some way. Now, it also shows that the future is already here. So if you wish, you can struggle. There was a time when stones and cowries were legal tender, and people struggled with the fact that it changed to coins and it changed to naira notes. Then it became e-money that we all just see in your banks. Mm-hmm. No longer the monies you keep under your pillow. So the process will keep getting complicated. The blockchain will go stronger. Currencies will change from hand to hand. That economy, I see potentially would grow, because there is now a place of interest. I hear Mexico is also having the same conversations. They're trying to do mm-hmm. something similar. So, but the issue is that it's like, I don't know if you've watched this recent movie called Startup, where there was this Gen Coin and all of that.
No.
Now, so you would discover that there is this conversation about trying to do transactions, and you don't want to either pay tax, you don't want the government to know, you don't want people to trace your footprints and all of that. Now, it's difficult to embrace because of regulations, crime, terrorism, and all of that, but also it brings some level of attention to that country. You wouldn't have been hearing about this country, as it were, if they've not made this decision. And then secondly, they are now going to be a point of attraction for wealth creation. It also shows the kind of projection, kind of mindset, the kind of lawmakers that they have. They are open to maybe let's give it a shot. My only downside and my worry is that their own primary currency may suffer a bit, because that means that as this money begins to come into the economy, do they have soft landing for those kind of funds that will come into their country? Do they have regulations to check how the money goes in and out? Do they have control over things like terrorism, moving those cash through their channels, through their ports, all of those things are the things that they need to start putting in place. But for me, I think it's something we should not fight.
Really? Okay, so I'm with you, and I'm glad you mentioned a lot of the points that you mentioned. El Salvador is a country that obviously is still struggling to create some type of balance, right?
Exactly.
But my issue is with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still quite unstable.
Yeah, every currency is unstable. Is your Naira stable?
Well, no.
As at this time of this conversation, this morning, hope you're aware that the Naira has dropped. The Naira to dollar has dropped to 485 as at this morning.
Wow. Okay.
So yesterday was 500.
Well, okay, you do have a point, but at the same time, I mean, I see the benefits to them.
And it's benchmarked largely against the dollar.
Okay.
So
how do you mean?
So Bitcoin is largely benchmarked against the dollar before it now gets to your local currency. That's the whole process. So to a large extent, people may become rich suddenly, and people may become poor suddenly.
Okay.
Now, so also you don't want to put all your hopes in a currency that is not stable. I would rather just withdraw my cash and put it under my pillow and be sure that I have $100.
Yeah.
Not like I open maybe Binance or something tomorrow morning and I see my money is half the money I slept last night with. So, and then it can be influenced by, tomorrow morning Elon Musk can just tweet.
that's my issue, is that one man can just make a comment and it affects the entire market.
So something happened 2 days ago, 3 days ago now, when what's his name now? This Portuguese player, Ronaldo, got to a conference, was going to address a conference, and he had 2 bottles of Coke and water. And then he moved I heard
what
happened to the share worth of Coca-Cola?
Yeah, it really dropped.
So just by a simple act, so that means that anybody can influence any kind of thing. But as compared to when it's a real legal tender, because what you must define what is legal tender before you even start talking about the worth of that particular item, because it's when we mutually agree that this particular device is worth 50,000. That is when we have a common ground to use it as a legal tender. Yeah. The paper that you see is just a form to show that it's a legal tender. So the other form of legal tenders that we have around town, but they are just accepting it as a form of legal tender for trade, not necessarily as a currency in their own country.
Well, I mean, El Salvador, it's very forward-thinking of the president, it's very forward-thinking of their leaders. Now we'll take a short break for highlights from this week in tech. This is Tech Roundup Weekly. Enjoy. Number of this week is 100. Eco Innovation Center trained 100 girls in 2020 as part of their Girls in Tech initiative and plan to do the same in 2021. As always, we'd love to hear your comments and feedback, so please connect with Wale Farron on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Tech Roundup YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Also, like us on Facebook and be part of our vibrant tech community. Have a great weekend, and until next week, have a good one.